All right, so I am clearly not a technical genius because all I had to do was click unmute. Clearly, after 4 years of Zoom, I still can't get the hold of it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's restart. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Scalora DanceSport. Scalora DanceSport has been for many years an entertainment platform, a little less on the educational side, but tonight, maybe a little bit of entertainment, but for the most part, educational. Let's begin. Good evening. My name is Alessandro Scalora. I am a USA Dance member. Just as I am an amateur dancer, I am an amateur moderator. I volunteered to do this not because of my moderating experience, but because I care about the future of our organization. 3 candidates are vying to lead our organization. They were all invited to join in this discussion tonight, which was meant to serve, to introduce them, and to allow them to present their vision for the future of the organization. Only 2 have agreed to join us, and they are Mr. Ken Richards and Mr. Ole Kuliba. For the sake of full disclosure, I once took a lesson from Mr. Kuliba back in May of 2023. I have had no further contact with any of the candidates other than to issue the invitation for today's event. My personal interest is to make sure that the candidates' views are fully aired so that the members can make an informed choice. Without further ado, before we get into our debate rules, I would like to bring in our two candidates, Mr. Ken Richards and Mr. Oleg Kuliba. Good afternoon, gentlemen. How are you?
Hello, nice to hear you.
Fantastic. Gentlemen, the candidates have agreed to the following rules. The debate will be a max of 90 minutes. The moderator will be the only person asking questions. Candidates can ask questions of each other. A virtual coin flip was held to decide who the first question will go to, which will go to Mr. Kuliba. It has also determined the order of closing statements. Mr. Richards will get the last word. There will be no opening statements. Closing statements will last 2 minutes. Props or pre-written notes are not allowed. Candidates will have 2 minutes for answers and rebuttals, and 1 extra minute for follow-ups. No topics or questions will be shared in advance with campaigns or candidates. Candidates' microphones will be muted when time belongs to the other candidate. Without further ado, the first question has been decided by coin toss and goes to Mr. Kuliba. So, let's begin. The first question for tonight regards membership. The membership of the USA Dance Federation rose from January 2021, which was at 4,596 members, to August of 2022, which had 6,462 members. Between August of 2023 and August of 2024, there was a slight decline. It went from 6,420 to 6,319, but generally held steady. What is your plan to what is your plan to grow membership in the organization?
Well, first of all, hello everyone who is here, and I'm glad to answer your questions. When we look at the metrics of the membership, we actually have to understand what those metrics are. First of all, when we see that the athletes actually improved with the rise in the metric, we should understand that this is the college being added to the athletes, and it's actually fantastic results because it brings us new people into organization. But to continue growth, it's not enough in my opinion, because for example, from the year of 2023 to 2024, this growth in total is less than 4%. And with our expenses, growth on this rate is actually not covering our expenses. So we still will be facing deficit going forward. And my plan is to actually engage, of course, with social chapters and improve their performance, have set goals on what is those metrics supposed to be. Maybe to start with some pilot programs and continue to see how they can improve. On the other side, we need to actually engage with the youth athletes again, with the studios more, and get more kids on our competitions, and in general be members of our organization, because as everyone see on our events, we do suffer a need of this category. So that's my 2 general points. However, besides of that, we can actually access more and more people with using some type of memberships, which maybe is not implemented yet in the organization. Like, again, adding more divisions. Since we already added breaking, we can add more divisions like salsa, swing, or other popular styles, and look for a collaboration and actually improve those metrics with that matter. Of course, the growth of the social will be more relying on the social director, and I'm planning to work closely with experienced people in there and help them in any matter they need. I believe this is the short version of the question for me.
Thank you, Mr. Kuliba. Mr. President, Mr. Ken Richards, the same question goes to you. What is your plan to grow membership in the organization? Your 2 minutes begin now. Sir, I can't hear you. Sorry, sir. There we go. You're right. That was my fault. I will restart the timer right now. And you may begin. Oh, sir, I still can't hear you, sir. Go ahead and try and say something, sir. Let me see if I can hear you. Sir, I don't think I can hear you. No, sir, I do not hear you. Let's see. Now, can the viewers confirm if they can hear Mr. Ken Richards, so this way I know it is not just my computer. Mr. Kuliba, could you tell me about your day quickly so I can confirm that I can hear you?
You can hear me.
All right, fantastic. I can hear you. Sir, Mr. Ken Richards, I cannot hear you. Cannot hear. All right. No sound from Ken on our end. All right. Let's see. Sir, do you have... Yes, sir. I hear your... I see your lips, but I don't hear your voice. If you have any microphones plugged in, sir, or if you're... Did you give the permission on the audio? That could be something, sir. All right, so for the sake, while Mr. Ken Richard joins us, he has clicked out of the app. He will join back in just a second. I would like to repeat for the viewers who just came in today's plan. So good evening, my name is Alessandro Scalora. I'm a USA Dance member. Just as I am an amateur dancer, I am an amateur moderator. I volunteered to do this not because of my moderating experience, but because I care about the future of our organization. 3 candidates are vying to lead our organization. They were all invited to join in this discussion tonight, which was meant to serve to introduce them and to allow them to present their vision for the future of the organization. Only 2 have agreed to join us, and they are Mr. Ken Richards and Mr. Oleg Kuliba. For the sake of full disclosure, I once took a lesson from Mr. Kuliba back in May of 2023. I have had no further contact with any of the candidates other than to issue the invitation for today's event. My personal interest is to make sure the candidates' views are fully aired so that the members can make an informed choice. Just a few moments ago, Mr. Kuliba answered the first question of tonight, which was meant regarding memberships. Mr. President, Mr. Ken Richards, can we hear you? No, sir. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we always have some technical issues doing Wi-Fi during Wi-Fi computer possibilities. Let's see if I edit microphone. So I can all right, all right, Mr. Mr. Richards, if you look in the top left corner. All right, while we have Mr. Richards, see if we can figure out the microphone situation. I will reread the rules of this debate. The candidates have agreed to the following rules. The debate will last 90 minutes. The moderator will be the only person asking questions. Candidates cannot ask questions of each other. Virtual coin flip was held to decide who the first question will go to, which will go to Mr. Kuliba. It also determined the order of closing statements. Mr. Richards will get the last word. There will be no opening statements. Closing statements will last 2 minutes. Props or pre-written notes are not allowed. Candidates will have 2 minutes for answers and rebuttals, 1 extra minute for follow-ups. No topics or questions will be shared in advance with campaigns or candidates. Candidates' microphones will be muted when time belongs to the other candidate. With that being said, just a few short moments ago, the presidential candidate, Mr. Oleg Kuliba, had discussed his answer regarding memberships. Once Mr. Ken Richards turns on the camera, I will allow him to join the stage, both our presidential candidates, and I will give him the opportunity to answer this question. After 4 years on Zoom, ladies and gentlemen, after these difficult times during Corona, we still haven't managed how to figure out our stuff. Just a few short moments ago, I had a few microphone problems myself, so maybe we need another lockdown. I'm just kidding, we don't. In the meantime, waiting to be let in. All right, Mr. Ken Richards, let's go ahead and give it a shot, and let's see if we can hear you.
So it sounds like this time I have no camera. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you. I can't see you, sir.
I don't know why. This time when I logged in, it gave me a bunch of questions that I originally didn't get. Maybe I logged in initially before you did, but my camera
There you go. There you go. You're almost there. Something happened, sir.
Yeah, I hit stop camera.
I see.
And
I'm
now
assuming, sir, this means that the permissions on the website. So the way you allowed permission for the microphone, you should allow the permission for the camera.
I did. Okay. Well, I guess I can take my tie off.
What? 1 second, sir. Let's see if we can take 5 minutes. If you would like to restart your system, and we will momentarily wait.
I'll be fine.
All right. Yes, sir.
I would prefer to use the desktop computer. Well, the camera's working. Maybe I need to be logged in to both to accommodate your platform. So let me restart the other computer.
Yes, sir. So let me remind the viewers of the current question regarding membership. The membership of the USA Dance Federation rose from January 2021, we had 4,596 members, to August of 2022, 6,462 members. Between August 2023 and August of 2024, slight decline, which went from 6,420 to 6,319, but generally held steady. What is your plan to grow membership in the organization? As soon as Mr. Ken Richards is ready, we'll allow him to answer.
Mike working. Are you working? Check 1, 2, 3.
Microphone works.
Yeah, that's the other microphone. The microphone that I'm trying to use. Check 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Does not seem to be a microphone. 1, 2, 3. So maybe I will need. All right, let's try that. So can you let me into my? Whoa.
There we go. Yes, sir.
You have both?
Yes,
Audio.
sir. I can see you and hear you.
Well, beautiful.
So, Mr. Ken Richards, what is your plan to grow membership in the organization? Your 2 minutes begin now.
Thank you. I should have started 2 minutes ago, but thank you, Ole, for your in-depth answer. I think it's a lot of obvious components to it, which is we get our members from sport and social across different divisions of dance. So we need to grow the membership in those areas. The background behind that is, how do we do that? There are lots of people dancing. There are lots of people dancing across different divisions. There's lots of people dancing in collegiate and social dancing that aren't members yet. So it's one thing to say, we need to increase those numbers in those different areas. It's another thing to say, how? How do we track them? What makes them want to be part of USA Dance? What do we do that wakes them up or re-wakes them up if they were members before COVID? And I think that ahead of us is actually the challenge. What is the value add that we can bring to someone? Why do they want to let go of $35, not a large sum of money, to become a social dancer? And that has to be answered down at the chapter level. So chapters have to create more excitement, more energy, more interest, and they have to get that inspiration from us at the national level. So we need to build a program and plans that will help them do that by working with them. Similar to what Ole said, of course. But what are those things? So we have certain chapters that are successful. We have certain chapters that are kind of coasting on regular fuel. We need that jet rocket fuel in all of the chapters. So we need to get them together in more training sessions like the ones that I started this year, where we bring the chapter leaders together and let them motivate each other and talk about the successes they're having, the ideas they're having, the kind of music they're playing, the way they are attracting people into their organization. What is it that they're doing to put a membership agreement in front of them? How are they supplementing that interest? Big part of it. On the dance sport side, we obviously have to grow opportunities for our athletes across all levels.
President. Thank you. Thank you. Your 2 minutes are up. Let's
you.
continue with the following question. Thank you. For right now, this will be the way I have the, the timer set up. Tonight, we've got many topics to get to. Many of the viewers, members have asked many questions. With the time limit being 90 minutes, we will get to as many as I can. Let's continue with the breaking topic. This year, as we saw, we had the 2024 Olympics, hosted the debut of breaking as an Olympic sport. What are your plans moving forward for the breaking division in the USA Dance? Mr. Ken Richards, you were present in Paris, correct?
Yes.
What can you tell me are your plans moving forward for the breaking division in the USA Dance?
Right. So in developing the breaking division, we were able to put together an amazing team of people that have a passion for it, understand the culture, and understand the athletes and the needs and what they do. Those people continue to be leaders in the breakdancing organization. Of course, that's the vice president, Zach, his communications backup, Taekwon, and the various people on the team that make up their council. A lot of it is driven by what is the pull strategy from the WDSF. And presently, how the American breakers view that is a very wait and see. So that won't grow. Obviously, the biggest carrot that breaking ever had in front of it for its entire, life was the Olympics. And then it ended. And then they received the very sad news prior to that 2028 would not be accepting of breaking into the Olympics. And then, of course, there was all of the negative fallout that has happened since the Olympics, which has taken breaking into a spiral with respects to how the different breakers across the globe are reacting to the WDSF, its system, the way they qualified athletes, and there's a great deal of media that's being published about this. Of course, we can't turn that around by ourselves. USA Dance is not driving the breaking bus. The WDSF is going to need to come together with its Youth Olympic Games, its qualifiers, the World Games, the future World Championship, which is something they scheduled for the United States, has just been canceled. And so they need to get that back on the agenda. And when those things are on the agenda, our breaking group that meets every week, and I join them quite often in their meetings, will come together and figure out how they can get behind those activities and build a national program that, again, will be sending people forward.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Mr. Kuliba, I will ask you the same question. What are the plans moving forward for the breaking division in the USA Dance?
Well, you see, as has been mentioned, I'm not really expert in this field. So in order for me to advocate for these athletes, I will need to actually get more information regarding what's their plan, what's their vision, what's the vision with WDSF or without it, how they see that it's actually continues to be a part of USA Dance, if they see that at all after whatever news they received over the previous years. And that's very important questions because, of course, there is interested parties in terms of WDSF who wants us to continue. But the question is, do they actually listen to our breaking division, or does this communication is actually exist and continues, or it's not? And if it's not, well, then my plan is to actually establish clear communication so the dancers and our members, of course, can be heard. And not just heard, but actually they wanted to see some changes with it. So that's the main issue with this, at least at the moment, as I believe. And in order to continue, I can, of course, offer my skills and abilities to help them to develop things. But again, they are the experts. They should decide if way of I see things is actually appropriate for them. And if not, well, I will just help them to do what they do.
Thank you, Mr. Kuliba. Let's continue with dance sport. Dance sport has been a ballroom dance sport, excuse me. It's been a topic that many athletes, high-ranking athletes, have had questions about. Mr. Kuliba, this will go to you first. How can we improve the image of American professionals and athletes on the world stage within the World Dance Sport Federation?
Can you repeat the question again, please?
Of course. How can we improve the image of American professionals and athletes on the world stage within the World Dance Sport Federation?
Well, I believe actually that our officials and athletes are very well represented in some categories, and we do have, uh, depending on like what division you're talking about, but we had world world finalists just recently. We had couples who represent us in different standard and Latin styles very well. So, does people disrespect us when we come to Europe? I don't believe so. I mean, at least I haven't seen this as the issue when I'm traveling myself to the Europe. And how we can improve and advocate it better? Well, one way which I can see it, it's just to prepare our athletes that the competitions in Europe is a bit different. Means we need to share our experience. We need to create teams of experienced people who share, like, what is this competition like? What is it actually going to be? What kind of floor it's going to be? What kind of travel expenses you should expect, and so on and so on. So that can help them to be prepared and have an right expectations about traveling to Europe and be represented there. I mean, represent our country there. And for the officials, again, I believe in WDSF, our officials is very respected. The problem is that to travel to Europe, it's very costly for them to bring us there. So we should think of the solutions for that, of course, and collaborate with organizers over the seas in terms of maybe the judge, if it's sort of like selected and he will be judging world championship, he can travel not just to one event but to multiple ones, and it's all needs to be just talked through with the organizers, and we should use our connections in WDSF in order to establish it to bring their costs down. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Kuliba. Mr. President, Mr. Ken Richards, I pose you the same question. How can we improve the image of American professionals and athletes within the WDSF?
Image is a tricky term to put your hands around. I think that what's very important is to remember the WDSF is a business. The organizers that run the various competitions around the world are running businesses. So while they are hosting at very high expenses different world championships and different events, they have the same kind of challenges that we have when we run a national championship, and even larger. So they tend to, in this world, in the dance world, you are thought of with a higher image if you can support them. Support them means send couples, send people. And I think what we do a great deal, and certainly we have reinstated athlete stipends in the last couple of years where they have been pulled down to try and assist athletes to go overseas. But let's face it, a junior couple and a parent can't travel to China on $2,500. It isn't going to happen. So we do need to find ways to increase some corporate funding to try to bring some additional assistance so that those athletes don't have to say no and they can make those trips. I think the other thing that has to happen is we have to try to find ways to get our athletes into some of the events that are not world championships, because that's been mostly our focus. World Championship, secondary World Cup. But there's these amazing competitions called Grand Slams, and of course many other open type competitions around the world. The more we can support, the higher our image will be. The more we can run those type of competitions in our country, the more higher our image will be. It will grow because we will be considered true business partners also with those organizations. And of course, we're talking quality of dance. That's a given. We have to have quality dance. We can't send 20 athletes that are all the last 20 places. We want to make sure that our athletes are trained and prepared, which is what we do in our education camps, et cetera. But and through our national qualifying program. But it's really about quantity, and we need to try and help more athletes get to these events overseas.
Thank you so much. Perfect on 2 minutes. Discussing larger federations, WDSF, there are other federations, so let's also discuss competing organizations. In the past year, we've seen collaborations with the World Dance Organization. Mr. President, this question will go to you first. In the past year, as I've said, we've seen collaborations with other dance organizations such as the WDO. can we expect an increase in similar collaborations and or partnerships with other dance organizations?
So the vision behind the WDO, which was shared with the board and of course the whole ballroom council at the time, was exactly that. It was about growing our organization and serving athletes that were not served in the Olympic path that the WDSF put forward. We need to find ways to serve athletes that have no passport, but have visas, for example, in our country. They can't go to a WDSF World Championship, but they can go to a WDO World Championship. We need to find ways to serve our same-sex and same-gender type athletes. We need to find ways to serve our American-style athletes. These things are not happening in the WDSF. As grand as the organization is, and as much as it does in its Olympic pathway, there are plenty of other things out there that our American athletes ask of us. So that was the right path to take, and it opened the door, as was mentioned earlier, to open up relationships with other international organizations. Once that was done, the WDSF took a hard turn on what we were doing and changed the provision within their statutes at their last annual meeting, which made what we did no longer acceptable. So because of that, we removed our relationship from the WDO currently. Right now, we are looking for ways that we can have partnerships with international organizations that are like those that are done in Australia and in Germany with the DTV and Italy and many other organizations which still have relationships with international bodies, but they are not members of those bodies. And that seems to be the hook for the WDSF. As long as they can either be members of you, or you can have other bodies that become a member of your organization that becomes a member of their organization, they seem to be okay with that. And that's what we're in the process of exploring now, with, again, the idea that we need to serve our athletes in America. And there is a different program here.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Kuliba, the same question will go to you. In the past year, we've seen the collaboration with the WDO. Can we expect an increase in similar collaborations and or partnerships with other dance organizations?
Well, you see, I don't really see any problems with the collaborations and partnerships. I believe it brings dance world closer and makes it more, of course, and competitive and more interesting and more fun for all dancers. The problem with the decision of WDO that when board decided to do that, I feel as a member that it's not actually took our opinion into consideration. That's why we have many members who are still upset with the decision of joining WDO, because they felt that a lot of time and effort which they put it into USA Dance and WDSF will be lost. So I think that's very important to clarify that in terms of that we are not anymore in WDO as the body, because many members have not received this email. We just collaborating with it, as far as I know. And we can have those collaborations. It's very good. It helps our sport to continue to develop. However, I also disagree with some statement of Mr. Richards regarding the American style, because I believe WDSF is actually are willing to support those events, and they are had some idea and plans, but for some reason that been lost a bit, and I don't see that we are trying to host any world championship. However, we do have these possibilities. I also don't see that we are guiding sort of Europe in terms of adjusting and adopting the American style and show the best parts of it so they can actually consume it and use for their clients and for their dancers, because it's, of course, a beautiful style which can be well represented by United States. So that's my thing on that.
Thank you, Mr. Kuliba. Let's begin speaking about USA Dance as a federation. Mr. Richards, as you mentioned earlier, USA Dance as well as WDSF is ran as a business. What are the strengths and weaknesses of USA Dance today, and how do you plan to exploit the strength to suppress weakness?
I believe it's actually my term.
I'm sorry?
It's
Yeah, it's So can you repeat the question and we'll
Yes,
start
of course. Excuse me. As I mentioned earlier, I'm an amateur dancer, amateur moderator. What are your strengths and weaknesses of USA Dance today? Excuse me, what are the strengths and weaknesses of USA Dance today? And how do you plan to exploit the strengths to suppress the weaknesses?
All right, so first of all, I want to mention strength and whatever been developed over the last 4 years. I believe that the work which been done to the bylaws and sort of aligning with the regulations of the USA Olympics is great, and that's of course terrific work. And development of the colleges and the college program also was very impressive work. Weaknesses at the moment, of course, is the financial situation with the organization. Lack of transparency in terms of budgeting. We got much better than we used to be. We do receive those annual reports, and that's great. But however, by those annual reports, you can't really analyze or answer where the money goes and why it goes there, why is there so much, and so on. So that's missed out. Another thing about the weaknesses is, of course, that many members feel that they can't really change or affect anything in organization. That's why we have many positions uncontested or being just empty as the positions in the organization, because people feel that their opinion is not matter, and that of course needs to be improved. And we need to provide clear ways for members to actually bring new ideas and communicate with the office and the managers of our organization. That's very important. It can improve feeling of the members when they're actually the members and their involvement into the organization. It can bring more new ideas and fresh looks and some problems, and we should definitely use it for our future.
Thank you, Mr. Kulibot. Mr. Richards, I pose to you the same question. What are the strengths and weaknesses of USA Dance today, and how do you plan to exploit the strengths to suppress the weakness?
On the strength side, I have to say, with this organization, for as long as I've been a part of it, there's never been a shortage of good ideas. The people that are a part of the organization know where they want it to go. They know what they want to do. They have lots of ideas on how to get there. They want to try this, they want to try that. And we've done many things along the way. And there's plenty that's been written as part of this campaigning that talks about this idea and that idea, many of which have either been done or done in some capacity. And that there's no reason why it shouldn't be tried again. So we have a lot of energy, we have a lot of excitement, we have a lot of knowledge from a strength perspective. On the weakness side, it's our resources. And it's two sides, people and money. And while I disagree completely with LA about the reason people are not involved and why there are uncontested positions, because that's not a new thing, we also have some vacant positions. And instead of people trying to be vacant in those vacant positions, two other people want to be president, for example, instead of helping out at some level, at some capacity, in a chapter level or at a board level, it's easier to be in charge. So I find that a little strange. Our organization could certainly use more people. The people that we have are fantastic, and they're spread thin because most of them are doing multiple jobs and trying to make the organization move forward and support the members. So we need to be able to attract more people inside of our leadership team, and we need to do that by beginning to cross-train people at the chapter level into some of these positions so they can help with the website, so they can help with various activities, running nationals, for example. The Dance Sport Council, the way it's structured on the ballroom side and the breaking side, there's a whole structure of representation that's available to anybody that wants to talk to anybody and bring an idea forward.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mm-hmm. Let's continue with the following topic, budgeting. Mr. President, I believe this is your question first. From January to July 31st of 2024, the Federation had a net profit of $9,024, expenses of $436,683, and an income of $445,708. Quite close. Do you have a plan to increase the net profit of the Federation?
So obviously net profit comes from the expenses versus the revenue. So it's a simple equation. And the good news is, and if you go into the website as of a day or two ago, you will find that net profit from that profit and loss statement has increased even more. I want to say 40-something thousand, up from the 9,000. Of course, that's a picture in time, right? Because the majority of our expenses are in for this year because of the national championship is behind us, and many of those things have already happened. There, of course, is a WDSF meeting that's still coming. There's expenses associated with that. And there are athlete stipends that will be paid and issued throughout the year as the heavy world championships fall into the end of the year. But the increase in membership, increase in corporate sponsorship, that's where we need to bring in the positive dollars. And then on the other side, we need to find ways to begin to make any new programs at least budget neutral, in the sense that they are not taking away any more money, and that we are actually finding ways to take some of those large hits and streamline them and make them more efficient. We actually started this already with a meeting 2 weeks ago with the key team members that are on the national organizing committee. And we looked at some $40,000 to $50,000 that we would be able to trim from the national budget without cutting any offerings that we were doing at the national level. It goes back to the other things that we talked about earlier. Where are we going to get additional sport members? One of the things that we need to do in this country inside of USA Dance is begin to look at how everyone does actually train their athletes and how people do want to dance. And I believe that our system of the bronze, silver, gold, 2 dance, 3 dance, 4 dance, you can't do anything open until you've been past gold, is becoming quite antiquated. And I would challenge the Ballroom Council to work with me to make that change into more of a solo, single dance type of organization with more open dance opportunities.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Kouliba, I posed to you the same question regarding the details and the numbers I mentioned earlier. Do you have a plan to increase the net profit of our federation?
Yes, first of all, I want to go over the budget which been posted. So it shows the income of $40,000, but apparently it does not have, as Ken Richards mentioned, recognized the expenses yet, in terms of that we can expect that the scholarships are going to be around $140,000, $150,000, not $51,000 like it is right now, because we can compare it to the previous 2 years reports, and we can see that this number is much higher. We can also expect expenses in the administrative part, because this number is also was much higher, and don't believe that it's going to be lower in this year. So by the end of the year, we will have a deficit again. And how big is it going to be? It's really matters of terms of how many memberships renewals will happen, because this is the main income. So that's the main part. How to fix that? Well, first of all, we need to understand what are those expenses. One of another biggest expenses is officials, and it's not really clear for me what are those expenses for the officials, because they're in some years very gigantic. The second thing is, after we understanding what are those expenses, we need to figure out how to cut it and actually how to get the better deals on whatever we have. And of course, we need to bring the new money. Corporate sounds very good, but I'm not really sure if we understand how to approach this market, because it works slightly different than just writing a letter to them. It needs to be a clear program which we can provide to the corporations, and they can offer it to their members for some price of like well-being program or life-work balance or all. And that's going to, of course, increase the memberships as well. The second thing that we have to start to actually rely on membership that much. We need to start to look for new sources more actively. We need to start to look for profit. So that's going to be the main things.
Thank you, Mr. Kouliba. Ladies and gentlemen, let's continue into our questions from the members. Many of the members have sent in many questions. I will get to as many as I can tonight. Let's begin with a question focused on our adjudicators. In recent years, the organization has been focused on attracting new people from the outside by giving them multiple benefits. At the same time, current members, especially professionals, were left outside the organization's view and attention. They begin to leave. What will you do to avoid members leaving? Mr. Kuliba, I believe this one will go to you first.
Sure. So I completely agree with this question, and I do see the trend of people disagree that someone can just join and take their job away in terms of officials, of course, because those people worked very hard to achieve credentials of USA Dance. They were supporting our organization for a very long time, and they, of course, should be respected by our organizations. Just to clarify, some of the officials have not been judged any event in USA Dance and still paying membership and still believe that they will be sometime invited to judge some of the events, and it's still not happening. And that's, of course, a problem. The second thing, that athletes who are competing, they also feel like someone can just join an organization and basically take the benefits, because the scholarships is the benefits which we actually providing, for example, like to WDO, like we did last year. And I think that's a very deep problem that we're not really taking care of our current members, like I mentioned previously. We should find a way and ask them what we can improve with that, what we can actually plan strategically to not have this as a continuous. It also returns to the social members. We don't know how many of those numbers are the new numbers or actually members who are coming back. So we're still losing members, and we need to count those. We need to understand what stands behind these statistics. And by whatever we have, it's missing a bit of transparency, because number might be growing, but at the same time, we might be lost another hundreds. And did we try to actually got them back, or it's been just forgotten? So that's the main thing about it.
Thank you, Mr. Kuliba. Mr. Richards, I ask you the same question. What will you do to avoid members leaving in regards to our officials?
That was the gist of the whole question, was with respect to the officials. Could you ask the whole question again, please?
Yes, sir, of course. In recent years, the organization has been focused on attracting new people from the outside by giving them multiple benefits. At the same time, current members, especially professionals, were left outside the organization's attention and began to leave. What will you do to avoid members leaving?
So this is a difficult situation to be in, and you running an organization of this magnitude, you have people who want growth, inclusivity, you want additional judges, you want additional options, you want access to better training and different people from different places. And at the same time, when you start to provide that, you have someone who's already on the inside who says, but wait a minute, you're taking away my job. What we need to do, obviously, is grow the job opportunities so that there's something for all of these officials that have not been selected to do, I'm assuming what we are talking about is the National Dance Sport Championship, but are also having the ability to be part of something in our qualifying structure or somewhere inside of a USA Dance competition. So it is not just nationals, but if we are going to give a broader organization with bigger perspective outside of the small group of judges that we have, we can't run a full organization on that. I think it's narrow for someone to think that they should leave because they didn't get selected to be a judge for a couple of years. The opportunity to be part of the organization, to contribute, to be part of the council, to volunteer, to be part of one of the committees, to help run the national event, those challenges, those opportunities, those things are all there. And we just said a few minutes ago, only a few people want to stand up and take these jobs. And now we say there's people who feel like they don't have an opportunity to take jobs, so they leave. Well, the opportunities are there. You can't have it both ways. We can provide an organization that everyone can try to find work in, but a lot of the work is volunteer work. What can you contribute? What are you willing to do? And I think that we need to provide our athletes access to a broad range of judges. Okay, so if Arunas, as an example, let's pick a name, was now judging our national championship and had never judged it before, there'll be one less judge that was there before. It happens.
Thank you, Mr. President. All right, let us continue with another member question. All members have asked to keep their questions anonymously, which is why they will be known as member questions. The following question will be: there's a significant lack of American judges and adjudicators in WDSF international competitions. This is greatly impacting competitors' results. What are your plans about this? I believe Mr. Richards.
It's me again, but can you ask it one more time, please?
Yes, I will. There, excuse me. There is a significant lack of American judges in the WDSF international competitions. This is greatly impacting competitors' results. What are your plans regarding this topic?
So I can take the question a couple different ways. Obviously, there's a very few number of American judges that are being selected on a fairly regular basis to judge at some of the international competitions. They're not picking from a larger pool like they used to a number of years ago. The reality is, back to the business, the international competition needs to select a judge from different countries. So they don't need 3 American judges, they need 1. And the invitations are at the behest of the organizer, with the exception of the World Championships, where the WDSF makes those decisions in some sort of lottery process, which is not extremely transparent, but apparently does pick different judges. They want the obvious picks: people who are former world champions, people who are high-ranking coaches that have developed top-level couples. These tend to be the people that are selected for these international competitions. The only way we're going to bring more of those people in front of the WDSF is to develop more of those people inside of our organization that are higher level respected, that are coming from the credentials of world championship status. And here in the USA, we don't have a lot of those. So I think that the person asking the question just has to realize that the USA Dance is not driving that process of how an organizer internationally is making their pick. If we can build your credentials, the person that's asking that, to the level of the person they're looking for, then you would be on that same plateau and you would be somebody that would probably receive some of those invitations.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. Mr. Kuliba, I posed to you the same question regarding the lack of American judges in the WDSF international competitions. What are your plans moving forward?
Well, in terms of the selected events or the events where such as like World Championship, where WDSF deciding who is going to be invited, of course, we can't really control that. But I believe that the question is also relates to just in general competitions in Europe, and that's actually something what can be solved. We do have athletes going to those events, and it's in interest of organizer to actually have adjudicator who represents the country. So we just need to form the teams and know where our athletes goes. We need to know where is our senior team is going. We need to ask them what is their plans for the competitions. We can contact organizers and actually say, we are as a country bringing that many couples. We want American judge, which we can inside raffle and select, be sent it to this competition. And organizer will either agree or disagree. And after that, we can look for another ways, or another organizers to actually repeat this process. And that's actually solvable in my opinion. And I believe that it is true originally as a question that we have only several judges who are willing to travel and help organizers one way or another and create this flow of American judges. And helping one way or another, meaning that sometimes we travel to Europe for free by our own money. And that's what we do for couples. So that's pretty much my answer.
Thank you, Mr. Kulibal. Let's continue to an incident which occurred in the last term. In the last term, there was an incident towards dancers of color. What is USA Dance's position for inclusiveness? This first question will go to, the answer will come from Mr. Kulibal first, and then we will move to Mr. Richards.
Can you repeat the question one more time, please?
Of course. In the last term, there was an incident towards dancers of color. What is USA Dance's position for inclusiveness?
Well, I believe that dance as an organization should be inclusive in all aspects. I want to create the environment where like everyone feels welcome for sure. And I don't know what accident is actually being related to. So I would need probably to research on that matter. And I would like this member to actually contact me directly, because I will be really curious to hear that. But I believe inclusivity is supposed to exist and on the competitions and on the social, like on the socials and the dance chapters and so on. We cannot really be uninclusive as organization in any terms. How to improve it? Well, I guess we already have a rules. If not, that would be like a big mistake, but we need to have a rules which of course protects those dancers and making it pretty much even for everyone. That's my answer.
Thank you, Mr. Kulibal. Mr. Richards, this incident, there has been an incident towards dancers of colors. What is USA Dance's position for inclusiveness? This is also, for the record, a question from our member. This member has chosen to be anonymous. I myself am also unaware of the incident, as the question, the member who decided to ask this question is anonymous, so I don't know of the incident. But, Mr. President, what is USA Dance's position for inclusiveness?
So the straight answer is USA Dance's position is completely inclusive. We are completely inclusive with respect to race, gender, economic background, politics, you name it. We're completely inclusive. There is no purpose or reason for an incident, and I don't know what the incident is either. And again, I would be happy to hear more about it from the particular member as well. And if this was a one-time incident or if this was a repeated incident, but obviously they felt that it's something geared toward color. And there's no place for that in our organization. There's no place for that in our board or with our organizers or with our officials.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. Mr. Richards, the following question will go to you. It is a bit lengthy. As always, questions from our members. As competitors, we seriously supported USA Dance and have been able to advance our careers through it. However, as studio owners, it is becoming increasingly difficult to foster the same support in our students. The question we get most is, what is the point of buying annual membership for only 2 competitions, regionals, nationals? With a follow-up on, yeah, but what's the point of going to nationals if there's barely a semifinal if we're lucky? It's expensive and they're essentially competing against themselves. And they're right. There are few competitors and even few competitions around the US. NDCA has consistent semi and quarterfinals from the preteen age, and between San Francisco and LA, extremely local to somewhat local, there are at least 8 competitions to choose from, most of which are big. If you expand to cover Vegas, then you have 1 comp per month, essentially. And parents are significantly more likely to go for that. What plan do you have to make USA Dance to be considered a serious rival to the NDCA? Mr. Richards, the floor is yours.
So the comparison to USA Dance and the NDCA has happened for many years. Basically, it comes down to what do you want to support and what are you looking to do. If you're a studio owner and you're looking for a competition in a great location with lots of athletes, et cetera, and the NDCA is providing that to you better, then that's probably where you're going to take your athletes. It's unfortunate to me, and I hate to see it, and I would love to see our organization grow in that area. I believe that the person mentioned junior or youth competitors, and of course, this is an area where we used to be extremely strong, and many of our top coaches that did this have now become NDCA organizers, so they've taken away those athletes to those NDCA competitions. So we are rebuilding that part of our program. We would love to have that person that asked the question continue to support us and be part of helping us build. The only way you get a semifinal is to first up a final and to have a quarterfinal. You have to start with something. All the athletes don't just appear one day. So we have to build that. But also USA Dance represents a completely different sport program. So between True Sport and Safe Sport and the testing that our judges, their certifications, it's a different platform. And the potential for dancing our nationals and receiving fairly generous stipends to go to world championships is not something that you find in the NDCA. There's room for you to dance both. That's also the beauty of it. We don't stop you. So please dance where your heart is, dance where you want to put your feet, put your money in an organization that can help you. It's very small membership fee, even if it's 2 competitions per year. Your entry fees are smaller. Usually your hotel costs are going to be smaller, and you have an opportunity to dance at what we believe to be a cleaner, better type of competition.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. Mr. Kulibah, in regards to the details that this member has asked, what plan do you have to make USA Dance be considered a serious rival to the NDCA?
No, you'll have to repeat the whole question. I'm sorry, it was very long.
Yeah.
Of course. As competitors, we seriously supported USA Dance and have been able to advance our careers through it. However, as studio owners, it is becoming increasingly difficult to foster the same support in our students. The question we get most often is, what is the point of buying annual membership for only 2 competitions, regionals, nationals? With a follow-up on, yeah, but what's the point of going to nationals if there's barely a semifinal if we're lucky? It's expensive, and they're essentially competing against themselves. And they're right. There are very few competitors and even fewer competitions around the US. NDCA has constant semi and quarterfinals throughout the preteen age, and just between San Francisco and LA, extremely local to somewhat local, there are at least 8 competitions to choose from, most of which are big. If you expand to cover Vegas, then you have 1 competition per month essentially, and parents are significantly more likely to go for that. What plan do you have to make USA Dance be considered a serious rival to the NDCA?
So the question, as I understand, relates more to the preteen categories, which are the future of dancing. So as I mentioned previously, the very important thing is to establish connections to the studios and make sure that we help those studios to communicate with us and dictate what sort of problems or solutions we can find for those problems, them coming to the event, either that logistics, either that amount of members. If we can actually establish some sort of clear communication with coaches and respect those coaches on our events, I believe we can get more dancers on the floor, because there has been some issues which I observed with my own eyes when we're not really understand that organization, first of all, exists on the kids categories and the coaches who are teaching those kids. It's very hard job, and it's definitely should be respected in terms of simply giving them a free tickets to the events and so on. And also, we of course, depending on the demographic part on the question, we need to find out where is those events are being missed, and we need to start to find a way, maybe connect with the studio owners, establish those kids competitions where it's just going to be small, but it's going to be USA Dance small event for kids, which we can run in a studio which is actually asking the question. That's another way to actually create more market. It's another way to help those studios to be competitive, and this way we can get more and more dancers on the floor without any reference to NDCA. We have to do our own job in order to make our competitions better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kuliba. Let's continue with the topic of World Championships, always from our members. In Europe, we see the competitors get a home field advantage when the World Championships are held. I guess it is, probative for USA competitions to host World Championships. Are there any possibilities for USA Dance could subsidize World Championships for events where we have top athletes? Mr. Kuliba, this first question will go to
Alessandro, can you repeat it all together one more time?
Yes, one more time. In Europe, we see that competitors get a home field advantage when World Championships are held. I guess it is probative for USA comps to host World Championships. Are there any possibilities USA Dance could subsidize World Championships for events where we have top athletes?
The short answer is yes, of course. Because we do have some couples in some categories which can be potentially world champions, and we do all what we need to do for that. It's to just host the event in United States, and that's going to give them a better preparation, no jet lag when they're competing, and so on and so on. All those advantages which are coming with the hosting World Championship. How we can do it, it's a bit different question, because of course organizing such events is very costly. So we need to make sure that we do have a clear budget on who is going to provide those money, if it's a sponsor, if it's national organization providing it, where we gonna get those money again, and so on and so on. But it is of course possible, and out of my head I can say that there is at least 3-4 events which can be potentially hosted in United States. Of course, we do need to of course have a clear communication with WDSF in order to compete to get these events, but we also will need to assure them that we do have a funding for those events, and so on and so on. That's pretty easy.
Thank you, Mr. Kuliba.
So I think the question really specifically, will the national organization subsidize a U.S. organizer or host it itself a world championship? And again, in the current budget situation, in the current scenario with our membership, where it is still in a growing phase and trying to recover ourselves still from COVID, I don't see that happening without a complete change, a corporate sponsorship, or some other type of activity. I think the broader question is that there's an assumption that an athlete competing in their home country has a home field advantage. And I think you'd have to put some numbers in front of me to be completely convinced of that all the world championships around the country are won by the person that's from the country that hosts the world championship. Certainly European athletes in European championships, okay, they're there, but they're already in the top of the ranking pile. Our top athletes would certainly have a better chance if we were hosting more competitions and we had more of our judges part of the business, part of the circuit, part of the opportunities inside of the WDSF structure. And our athletes would have more access to training camps and participating in all of these things that many of the European couples do constantly. That would be the key. To win the world championship is to be the world champion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let's continue to another question from our member. One of our members took particular interest into Mr. Kuliba's presidential website. This member wants to know the background information provided in Oleg's profile on his campaigning website. Here is what he states. My journey in the corporate world has been just as dynamic, blending my analytical skills with my creative background. After moving to the United States, I applied my technical expertise as a software engineer and entrepreneur. I found a startup that now serves over 50 clients. My corporate experience also includes roles at S&P Global and Open Mobile Worldwide, where I honed my project manager and software development skills. The member continues to say, it doesn't seem very transparent. What is the name of the startup company, and is it still operating? What were the roles you played at the companies you are claiming to have been a part of, and why are you no longer in those positions? What type of projects did you manage, and how do they relate to the skills needed to be president of USA Dance? Mr. Kouliba, this question will go to you since it is directly for you.
All right, so I don't know where to start, but regarding the company, it's pretty easy. It's been sold, so it's actually has the new owners, and I'm under undisclosure agreement regarding what was that. So regarding my experience with the corporations, it's I mean, I'm still continue to work at the corporation world. And I am actually a software developer, and I developed a lot of things myself, and that's my skills which I actually planning to bring to make this organization be more innovative. I believe we are quite behind the time we're living in terms of web technologies, in terms of USA Dance application, in terms of many things which can be automated in the way how we organize things, and in terms of communications to the chapters, to the members, and so on. So this is the skills which I'm bringing from the software development part. My management skills, of course, I'm also working in the teams, and I do know how those teams are established, how they work, how they report, and what is important in terms of creating goals and creating actual targets which you need to reach for the certain amount of time. And that's, I believe, can rapidly increase the speed of operations of our organization. My financial background as well can help a lot in terms of budgeting, in terms of strategic planning, and finding new resources and creating new products for USA Dance. Rather than, I mean, many items can be added to that. I don't know if it's answering the question completely, because it was a pretty long question itself, but I hope it gives you an idea of what kind of background I'm coming from. And of course, another part of this background is dance, which I did since I'm 4.
Thank you, Mr. Kouliba. Mr. President, I'd like to ask a similar question to you. How has your career outside the USA Dance helped you become a better president for the Federation? 1 second, Mr. President. 1 second. Go ahead.
Thank you. And I appreciate hearing a little bit more about Ole's background. I did think we were going to have follow-up, but that isn't something that we've been able to do during this debate. So I don't know where you would plan to do that, but my background, of course, I started as a dance instructor inside the franchise dance organization coming out of high school, and I did that for a number of years until I went back to college and worked in my undergraduate program at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School of Business. Then I returned to the Arthur Murray Franchise Dance headquarters, where I served as their marketing director for 6.5 years, which was in charge of training teachers on how to do business, franchisees how to be franchisees, the legal aspects of their business, their structure, the corporate aspects, the financial aspects. I left that field to get into the world of advertising and marketing, had a number of very high professional, well-paying positions in the marketing world. Probably the most challenging and most interesting was a family of 7 different car dealerships in the Washington, D.C. marketplace, where I basically ran their in-house advertising and marketing program from radio, TV, and all of the statistics, their websites, etc. currently, for the last 17 years, running a ballroom dance studio in Wilmington, Delaware. It's mostly a social dance studio, and also assisting my wife with her real estate property, which her family developed, which is a fairly large shopping center here in Wilmington as well. And those sort of things afford me the opportunity and the time and the ability to go to the meetings, do the work, support the dancers without having to make income inside of USA Dance. The work I do, I would not be providing to USA Dance as a charge. All I did not mention whether he would provide an app or different structures or things as a business to USA Dance, or whether he would be providing those services free. If he wants to provide them free, I'm happy for him to join the committee and get started on it right away. No sense in waiting for the election.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, follow-ups are always 2 minutes, and rebuttals will be 1, if choosing to take them.
Okay.
If not, let us continue. A top athlete, a top member of our federation, recently sent me a question, and this is what he states. So let's say the German Federation has their athletes on salary or stipends. They have a personal PT trainer that travels with them, and their federation covers athletes' expenses. Is there a world where USA Dance would have an ability like that? I believe this question goes to Mr. Richards first.
Right. So again, you're the athlete that's asking this question, or the coach, judge, parent, is recognizing obviously certain details that set the USA's sport program apart from the rest of Europe and Asia to many extent. Even though dance sport is not in the Olympics, we're just recognized. Many of the countries inside of the World Dance Sport Federation do receive funding, considerable funding, from their Olympic committees, or in the case of many of them, they call sport ministry. So they have a different kind of structure altogether. So they recognize their top athletes need training, massages, costumes, travel, psychological training, nutritional training, all of those sort of things. We in USA Dance, the best we can offer at this point is to do that for the group, to try and bring together our athletes in a training camp and give them access to those sort of things, not just fund that for individual athletes.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. Mr. Oleg, Mr. Kulibag, I asked you the same question. I'll repeat it one more time.
Yep.
So let's say the German Federation has their athletes on salary stipends. They have a personal PT trainer that travels with them, and their federation sometimes covers athletes' expenses. Is there a world where USA Dance would have an ability like that?
Well, as Mr. Ken Richards already mentioned, we are existing under a bit different rules, and our situation is a bit different than in Europe. But however, I believe that our federation itself can be much more sustainable and more profitable. And there is a ways to achieve it. We just need to clear plan and execution on that. So if that's going to be happening, yes, of course, we can exceed our support for the athletes. And we should, because all national team athletes should not be charged for dance camps. Are they not supposed to be like thinking, okay, I will have only $1,500 going to this competition, and where we'll get another 15? So that's actually the situation. And we are living in one of the largest economies in the world. It just seems like we're not getting enough from it, and that's why the other organizations in the world sometimes very confused about how our dancers represent it. And of course, it's all in the plans to change. We just need to actually clarify some things with the budgeting, and we need to find the new ways and new strengths for the income for the organization. And I believe it's possible. I believe it's possible.
Thank you, Mr. Kulibal. As the last question for tonight, as we begin to wrap it up, excuse me, the last two questions. This question will go to Mr. Kuliba first. And the question is as follows, always from our members. Do you pledge to support the USA Dance president and the USA Dance organization if not elected? Mr. Kuliba, the first.
Yeah, can you? Is that the question to just me or to both of us?
To both parties. Do you pledge to support the USA Dance president and the USA Dance organization if not elected this November?
Well, I don't really believe that we have to pledge on anything like this, but I do support current organization in terms of I do see what was beneficial of their office and what they created, and there's many good things. There's some things which seems they just not capable on fixing. Maybe they'll be disagree with it, but I'm just looking at the numbers. And in terms of supporting the office, I believe there's many experts and specialists who absolutely should continue to do what they do. We just need to make sure that this plan of their effort is actually existing in terms of where are we going to be in 1 year, what our members should expect, where are we going to be in the 4 years, and what our members should expect from that. If those goals are clear and we actually all working together, so is that, well, I'm never looking for the conflict. I always for the collaborations, and I always looking for people who can advise me in anything. That's my approach to that.
Thank you, Mr. Kuliba. Mr. Richards, I asked you the same question. Do you pledge to support the USA Dance president and the USA Dance organization, if not, in your case, be reelected in November?
Yeah. All right. Am I still there? Okay. Thank you for the question. I think it's actually a pretty important one, because this is one of the sad things that happens in our organization, is that we tend to lose that institutional knowledge base when people stop supporting. And my intention would be to continue to support and to find ways that there would still be a way for me to help. You don't give this many years and this much time to the organization and the athletes and turn it off. But if they determine that they prefer to have someone else as their president, as opposed to myself, then I would find a way to still serve the organization.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. As we conclude our last question for tonight, Mr. President, you will respond first. What's a trait that your opponent holds that you respect?
Say that again, please.
Yes. What's a trait that your opponent holds that you respect?
Thank you. Well, I'm actually just getting to know Mr. Kuliba in many ways this evening, and I have a lot of respect for a great deal of what he has had to say tonight, as well as the time that he has obviously put in doing his research, and also feeling probably important, admit where he doesn't know things. And I think that's important. So I respect those aspects of him. I'm looking forward to seeing him actually volunteer in the organization in some capacity and implement some of the things that he's talking about, and not just waiting.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. Mr. Kuliba, I ask you the same question. What's a trait in your opponent? What's a trait that your opponent holds that you respect?
Well, I believe I mentioned already multiple times over this debate that I do actually appreciate some things which have been done under this administration, under the Mr. Richards' leadership, and just by the people with those ideas, with whatever college department did, and how they see the future and the bringing new people and new possibilities, how everything what has been done with the rule book changed and actually been aligned, and how's everything with those possible legal issues being served, applying those bylaws. So this is very important work, and also another important part is aligning with Olympic Committee. Of course, I do appreciate all this work. I myself probably wouldn't do it better in terms of like especially getting correlation with the bylaws with the USA Olympics and so on. So that's definitely level of expertise which was needed at the time Mr. Ken Riches was president, and I definitely appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Kulibab. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is now it's 2:30 for me. Definitely not 2:30 over there. I would like to thank the two candidates tonight for their time here on Scalora DanceSport. I would like to also thank the viewers and the members who took time out of their afternoon, their night, to follow us on Scalora DanceSport. The one thing we all have in common is we wish to see our federation grow bigger, stronger, and better. For any times that I was an amateur moderator, as I remind you, I'm an amateur dancer. So, gentlemen, thank you so much, and we will see you. We will see you. Thank you.
Were there closing remarks?
Yes, sir. As I told you, amateur dancer. It's 2:30. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and begin our closing remarks. As we mentioned in the rules, the coin flip decided Mr. Richards will be getting the last word. So we will invite Mr. Kulibab to present his closing remarks.
Yeah. I believe we stand at a pretty critical point and the moment for USA Dance. It's clear that we need to embrace innovations. It's clear that we need to bring new technologies, and we have to start to look for new ways of how the organization operates, how it makes money. And I think it's time to listen to the voices of our community, respect them, and actually create a pathway to encourage people to help us to control and regulate these organizations. We do want to create new leaders who are potentially will be coming in the office in the future. We need to take care of our youth generations and not forget about, of course, our social and senior athletes. Because this is our organization. This is how diverse the backgrounds and diverse ages it is, and it's very important for us to actually start to look for the future now and bring this new, innovative, and more looking outside of the box ways. We need to start to question some methods and some ways of how we used to run this organization. We need to look for a bit more fresh approach. And that's why I'm running for this position. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kulibab. Mr. Richards, I invite you to present your closing remarks.
First, I'd like to extend a thank you to you, Mr. Scalora, for hosting this and putting yourself out there. It was, I think, an important thing for the members, and I'm sure Mr. Kulibab agrees. And I thank him as well for being present here. I am disappointed that the other candidate wasn't able to join us. And Chuck, if you're watching or if you're listening, I invite you, you set the terms, you decide. Let's get together and have a debate when you're ready. Maybe it's one where we ask each other questions. It can be with me. It can be with the three of us. But I think that it's important for our members to hear what they heard tonight, which was us talking about them and their organization. This was difficult because most of these topics were not 2-minute answers. Most of these topics were 30-minute answers in many ways. And there's so much background and so much information and so much for our members to know. USA Dance is an interesting organization is because people don't join USA Dance to run it. People don't join USA Dance to be involved in leadership for the most part. They join it to become dancers. They join it to social dance. They join it because they need to as athletes. They didn't really sign up to run the program. And we need people that will do that and step up and do that. And I know that Mr. Kulube is the future of our organization, but my biggest concern is that the future isn't maybe just now, because we have a situation where I'm not done yet. We have not out of ideas. We are not out of great talented people that can make things happen. But what I'm concerned about is that someone who doesn't know about the 56 policies that need to be rewritten still, that doesn't know how we do our budgeting, that has admitted in tonight's conversation there are many things that he's not aware of, but he will consult with people to figure out, who has never attended any meeting or helped at any level at any committee, wants to go from never being in a board meeting to now running them. The president sets the agenda. The president needs to know all aspects of our organization. And I think that's an important part to remember for the voters.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you for joining us tonight. Our two candidates, thank you. I appreciate everything that you guys have done. And we will see you all very soon in November. Have a great night.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night.